Hi, this is Eddie Tate, and you're listening to the Cork Chroma podcast. Last week, I caught up with Hillary to chat about her entry into the Brisbane Portrait Prize. We had a lot of fun talking through her painting process and all the things that she's learned along the way. And in this episode, I thought I'd share with you the extended version of our conversation from that day.
With my big painting, I took a photo in my kitchen of this beautiful bouquet of flowers that my boyfriend bought me. And I used an Instagram filter. I just love all the Instagram filters at the moment, especially like the sparkly ones. And this filter kind of blocks out all the dark areas to look a bit like space. In my mind, it's space. And I really like surrealism and collage and all of that going on at the moment. And so I thought this might be my way to kind of paint a photograph, but also take it into something a bit more surreal and creative.
The photograph, were you thinking, I'm going to take a picture to make a painting? Or did you take the picture first?
Took the photo first. I also loved the sepia kind of colors. I was like, I would just love a very big picture of this. Like I actually thought I could just print the photograph because I love the photograph so much. And then I thought, no, I want to do a big painting. And this is where I am with the process is I actually would really like to paint portraits, but I have a big canvas and I was like, I could paint this photograph or a photograph of the sky, which I love. But for some reason, I feel like that's cheating. I got this whole thing in my mind about painting from a photograph. I don't know. There's so many layers there that I've got to.
I wonder why. Let's figure that part out a little bit. Cheating for what? So using a photograph as a reference is in your head, you think it's cheating on creating?
I've got to add more creativity than that. It can't just be a replica. But when I'm painting, I'm so honed in on trying to get it right. This is where I got to in the space, similar to you, where to the point where I'm trying to figure out the color of the tiles. Like, what the hell is that color? Is it gray? Is it blue? Is it actually brown? And then to the point where I took a screenshot and into Pantone, and I'm Pantoning it to figure out what color it is. And then I was like, hang on a minute. Do you just want to make it up and make it your color? And I had people sort of give me little tips along the way, like, why not make it pink or something? And I'm like, oh, wow, outrageous. Like, I'm not sure if I'm ready to go that far off this photograph. But I think I hit that point of, I need to let go of this photograph and make it my painting, was where I was painting the petals of the flower I don't even know the name of. I was painting the petals and I'm repainting them. And then I was like, I know how to paint. Like, how would I approach this petal if I was painting in a session? I'd paint the middle tone, I'd paint the shadows, I'd paint the highlights, and then I'd paint the details. But instead, I kept changing the color because I couldn't figure out what color it is. And I'm focused so much on the photograph that it was actually looking terrible. And then when I just sort of added my own method to it and said, this is the color I'm going to use, this is the shadow, this is the way I'm going to do it. Oh, it was just so much easier.
It's a fine line, I think. One of the first artists who worked here, Emily, and still she's one of my favorite painters, the way she paints. Actually, she did this mural behind me. Hello,
look at it.
Yeah. So she said to me years ago, and this was before I ever really used photographs as references for paintings. She said she had been taught that your painting is only ever as good as your reference photo. So you need quite a good reference. You need a strong reference in order for your image to like read in a strong way, which makes a lot of sense as I've learned how to do that over the years. Because when you paint from your imagination, unless you have a super vivid and detailed imagination, there's just not as much detail. You know, like for example, the paintings that we do here in the studio, they're a lot looser. A lot more room to which is why we love this style of painting, because we can all kind of play with it and have our own way of expressing it. But yeah, I'm starting to get into that idea of like painting what is in your life, like your bouquet of flowers. And then what can you infuse from your experience or your ideas or your feelings into this real world in front of you? Like, where do those two things meet? What is it within you that just wants to like inject some of your vibe into this image? You know, it's such a cool thing to think about. It's what I'm really interested in these days. I wonder, what was it that you wanted to add to it?
I haven't finished it yet as well. So, and you know how it's just like bubbling and you can feel it bursting, and you're like, for me, it's almost building up the courage to go. You know how you were saying where you end up taking 2 steps backwards. That was when I redid my background. So I've already painted a few flowers. I'm like, this is so wrong. If anyone's in a session, they're like, I want to repaint my background, I'd be like, you probably shouldn't. And then I'm just going against all these sort of how I would probably recommend someone else. But it was like, no, I need to do this. And this whole battle of perfectionism and a few things to hurdle over. And then, repainting the background. I have this image in my head of the fairy lights being like a solar system and like planets. And then I haven't quite finished the whole thing yet, but then I want to delve into making the spacey elements. But it's so scary because it could just be undoing a great image. It could just be fine on its own.
But if it doesn't resonate with you yet,
yes,
then you're not there. Like, there's nothing to lose because you haven't gotten it yet.
That's the
way I thought. Yeah,
that's true.
I feel like when I make anything, I mean, no matter how silly or simple it is, if I'm really trying to make something, that I'm happy with, I just feel it when it's there. I just feel when I've expressed it the way that I think I can. But I don't know. I guess it doesn't happen every time, but that's what keeps you keep trying.
Yeah. I read someone on Instagram artist, I wish I knew her name, but that was one of the questions. She had this in her highlights. It was frequently asked questions, and someone had asked her, how do you know a piece is finished? And she said, often it's when I just sign it. I just so identified with that flow. It's almost like I'm done here.
Yeah. There is something to that, like, just sign it, because it's like, at some point, I have to choose when I say this thing is done. Ultimately, you have to tell yourself, yes, I did it. It is done, and move on. Otherwise, that's what I think you get into, that trap of like perfectionism, and you start to spiral a little bit. The color thing, I wanted to go back to what you were saying about color picking. I found that such a tricky thing with this longer piece too, and especially this more realistic piece, because I found in my painting, if I picked colors spot on in some areas, I really needed to be spot on, even when it's like not a fun color, like a muddy brownish grayish whatever shadow. But you're like, I don't want to put that color in my painting.
Yep.
But what I found is it never really reads. It just reads as a more realistic looking palette. Those shadowy colors really do just become shadows. It's funny because I feel like I always want to steer towards these brighter, more beautiful colors, more exciting colors. But you need both for it to resonate. Yeah.
That's great to hear. Maybe that's what that resistance was, because I was like, I don't want that to be that color. This Pantone app is wrong.
Yeah. And then it's like, when are you going to decide, like, am I going to follow these realistic colors, or am I going to inject some surrealism, some imagination there? It's tough.
That was cool, because that was that fork where I was like, nah, I'm not going with that color. And then it was like, cool, do what you think, what you want to do. Like, why are you fighting here? This is all you. This is you. That's what's funny as well. This little battle.
It is. And all of this goes on within you. And I think that's why I really love painting. I love painting socially, obviously, amongst other people. And having some drinks and whatever. But I think painting on your own, it's, to me, I used to teach yoga and practice a lot of yoga as well. And to me, painting, I get the similar process of self-discovery. You notice your thoughts, you're making these little decisions, you're making tiny adjustments, and it's all happening within you. But the cool thing, I mean, yoga is sort of similar because you're working on your body. But the cool thing about painting is you have this thing to show for this process that you went through, where you learned, this is all me. I just get to make this decision, or whatever the lesson you learn about yourself in this painting, like you have this thing to show for growth as a person.
Yeah, that is so rewarding.
It makes me want to go home and paint.
Yeah. Are you going to do some? I didn't know what time we were going to meet today, and I didn't get up early enough, but I thought I'd start the day with painting some more of that piece. I'm definitely going to get back to it.
Are you done with all the flowers?
I think I've got to do all the greenery. And again, trying to get those colors was really hard. Another thing that I had to deal with was patience. I've learned so much from going from Cork and Chroma style to discovering my own style, because I haven't painted since high school, and then I've worked at Cork Chroma for 4 years. I've gotten so used to the satisfaction of finishing a painting in an hour and a half that this was one of the reasons why I wanted to tackle this painting. And Chloe said that to me, something about she was learning to let a painting rest and come back to it. I've never done that, except maybe in high school when I was working on a big piece. But I really had to change it was a retraining, which was cool.
It's a great point, because each session is such a result of your headspace that sometimes you need to let the painting rest, and you need to just go find some balance elsewhere and come back with a fresh slate to work from, to problem solve from. I mean, I feel like painting is just, especially these longer, bigger, slower, more planned paintings, it's a problem solving, like one after the next. Yeah, even down to like, what color is that? Then you've got this little like mission to figure out what color the shadow is, and that might take some time. So depending on your mood, I guess.
Oh yeah.
Sometimes you just want to like get something out there, and sometimes I can do this. I can be patient. I will wait while I learn.
One of the things that happened early on, because in Cork, when I'm leading a session, my favorite thing is when I accidentally get green on there and it's meant to be like a pale pink or something. And then I just go wild. I'm like, get the green on there. And so I feel like naturally my process is like lather the paint on and color and like, just have some fun. And then with this painting, I was battling that, where it's like, oh no, I have a photograph here and I have the colors. Which I don't know what the colors are, but I want them to, I want it to look like that. And then at one point I got this smear of pink, this beautiful mulberry color. And I was like, ooh, now's my chance to be me and do what I do in session. And so I just smeared this pink all into the tiles, and it was fun. And I was like, woo! But then it was like, hang on, that's drifting away from what I want it to be, which is this kind of more muted, beautiful piece that's maybe not my usual color explosion. And then it didn't work. And I think it's like what you're saying. There's that balance of, you still need to stick to, if you're going to go with that strong reference image, there's an element of needing to stick to it. So I ended up having to paint it. I painted over it a few times.
I know what you mean when you say it didn't work. And sometimes you don't even know why it doesn't work. There were times when I knew that didn't work, and I could write that turn, like right there, It's a hard thing to explain, the process that you go through. And I think also the tough thing is when you start to gain technical painting skills, like I feel like now compared to 7 years ago, when I really started painting a lot, when we opened Cork and Chroma, I have such a higher degree of skill, just from painting a lot. Now that I can paint something that really looks like something a little more realistically, that's something that I didn't think I would really be able to ever do. I thought I would always paint more expression, more of that style. But now that I have the skill, I'm trying to figure out how much do you want to go down that path in a painting and use that technical skill and really,
Oh my God, yes.
and how much, find your own like hand on it. How much expression is there in your brush?
Yeah.
How much skill? Yeah.
Oh, I so relate. And also, congratulations. And I'd love to know how you feel about this, because after painting for this long and then actually attempting my own style, or just a non-Cork and Chroma style, I was surprised at my skill. Like, it was like, oh, wow, I have learned a lot. I've had a few comments of like, you're really skilled. That's really impressive. I never thought of myself like that. And I think like what you said, I just thought, oh yeah, I can push some paint around, and I've learned lots of things like light and shadow and some, you know, but it wasn't until I applied that to my own artwork that it was this nice, pleasant, like, oh wow, this really has been something I've built on for a long time. And now I can play with that and find my own style or push the boundaries.
Yeah. And I think you just gave yourself the time to apply what you know. And it kind of goes back to what we always say, anyone can do this.
Yeah.
You know, there are some basics that you need to know in order to use paint as a medium, but anybody can paint. And it's just taking the time to observe, understand, and then this, you know, that's where the skill comes in, is like translating that through your hand, through the brush. But if you can practice that training of like, this is what happens through my hand, through the brush when I do this, and this is what happens when I do it that way. And when you have that library in your back of your head, you know, then, you know, you can kind of translate the other things through.
And that comes then down to color. Like, I think this whole thing being able to see, it's color, line, shape, you know, foreground, background. It's so exciting because that's what I think so addictive about painting, is you learn so much. The other thing is progression. That's very rewarding. I had a conversation with my friend about talent versus skill, and he was saying, I don't believe in talent. That word talent, I don't know if it's a cop-out, but it's kind of this, oh, you're so talented. And it's like, well, I'm skilled, and also I've been working on this skill for a long time. And so that's very valuable. And then I don't know if it's the talent or more so your personality and your, you know, the bit of yourself that you added to that skill.
That's what I think it is. Yeah. The bit of yourself that you add to the skill is what makes you a talent, because skill is objective, right? Like, anyone can paint, anyone can do woodworking. Like, there's a way to do it and a way to approach it. And there's a skill that you can gain if you go and try and learn.
Yes.
Maybe not anyone, that's not, you know, but you know what I mean.
Do you believe in talent?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's your definition? Yeah.
I don't know if it's like, because I think some people are just naturally talented at stuff. Like, some people just have a natural tendency and an ease that just nobody can explain. That's just who they are. That's just how they are. But I think it's exactly right. I think it's a combination of who they are with what they can do. That's your talent.
Yes. And it was interesting because my friend was saying he doesn't believe in talent. And then he said if someone just knows a lot, I think he sort of took it down an academic line. But I feel like people are drawn to different things. Like, whether it's painting, if you're drawn to painting, you're going to paint a lot. You're going to become good at it. And it seems like you're naturally good at it. But I think talent comes with, like, a certain personality is drawn to that medium. And then they just naturally become very good at it. But it's combined with that expression of themselves. And that's what's beautiful. And so I think it gets labeled talent because that's the uniqueness or something. I don't know what another word would be.
And I think it gets labeled talent because people don't always believe that whatever it is achievable for them. So you have to tell yourself, like, that's their talent because that's outside of me, you know. And there are some things that I will never be talented at. But I do believe that, and painting has taught me, because it's a slow, long game. I mean, it's fun to paint one thing in one night, like you said. But that's like, I don't learn all the time the lessons that I learn when I apply myself over a longer period of time with more of a specific outcome. That's just something different. And that's just something that it's not as gratifying in the moment, but that's what I'm learning painting really is in life and can be for people. And is for me, is that it's a part of life. It's a way that you figure out who you are and how you do things. I learned so much about my tolerance of like patience and how frustrated I get at small or big problems. Fears, what fears come up? Why am I afraid of painting over this? Am I afraid it's going to be wrong? Am I afraid of what people are going to think of it? You know, all of these things come out for me when I paint. And I feel like those are lessons that just help me in my life. And it's actually becoming less about the actual painting that I'm doing. And it's really, for me, becoming how I'm working on myself, how I become better and calmer, and how I understand myself more so that I'm less anxious, and understand myself more so that I can love myself more, you know. And honestly, yeah, there are a lot of practices that I do in my life that help me with that and those things. But painting is a big part of that.
Oh yeah, you really hit something there for
Oh
sure.
yeah.
Oh yeah, girl. Especially because actually I totally relate. That's been the same journey, and I think that's why it was so scary for me to begin, was because I wanted to discover that side of myself, but then it was so hard to begin. And now that I've begun, I've actually gained a lot more confidence. I also notice when I paint, I'm so tense.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Like
sometimes.
you're physically tense or just in your head?
I think so. That was probably more in the beginning of the painting, and then I've relaxed into it a little bit. But it's those things, like you said, when you're just noticing, oh wow, I'm really judging myself right now. I'm really overthinking this. Stop, move on. I think there was a period there where I realized how much confidence I was gaining, and that it was a new expression for me. But I think, yeah, it's quite big. I haven't acknowledged yet how big that is.
I think it's nice to approaching painting in this way now. I found myself speaking to myself how I would speak to you, how I would speak to our other artists on our team, and how I would speak to our guests when they're painting and going through something. You know,
Yeah,
why is it we can't tell ourselves or coach ourselves through those moments always? I really do find it so easy to coach someone else through that
absolutely.
moment, because we understand the creative process and what goes into it. But when you're in the middle of it, sometimes it's just, yeah, hard to bring yourself out. So finding that like inner little coach to like just get yourself through it.
Mm.
And that is where I found a lot of love and a voice of encouragement for yourself. Because what else are you painting for? Are you
Yeah,
painting to be down on yourself? You know, it should be fun. It should
yeah,
be wonderful. It's paint. It's painting.
yeah. Like, calm down. Um, Actually, Simon said that to me. I don't know if I think I was talking about this piece, but he pointed something out where he said, "You said that my paintings are great," and he's a new painter. He's painted the first time. He's painted about 3 paintings now or 4, and at Cork Chroma. And I go around the session telling everyone how amazing they are, because I think it's awesome, because they're all expressing themselves, and I love that. And I love kind of naive and that kind of all that stuff, all that kind of art.
Mm.
And then I realized I'm a fraud, because I'm telling everyone how great they are, and then but to myself it was this, no, that doesn't look good, or you know.
That's when I really understood, yeah, I'm a fraud. I think I had a moment like that too. And it's like, if you can't get yourself through this process, like, who are you? What are you trying to tell people? Practice what you preach here for yourself, you know, because it's all good. And once I did switch my mindset there, I mean, it really did become all good. It became fun, and I kept looking forward to getting back to the canvas.
That's amazing. So what next, Hill?
You know, what next? The big piece I did at the beginning of the COVID time was really fun, really kind of expressive. I watched a Bob Ross tutorial and I was meaning to follow along with it. But then I kind of got excited and inspired, and my daughter wanted to help me paint on it. So it became quite splashy and colorful and imaginative and sort of
I love it, Hill.
real.
It is so beautiful. And the size, I think, really complements the colors you've used. And that's that perfect example of following along, following along. Hang on, I've got to go. I've got to be
Yeah,
me.
I've got an idea. So I'm kind of keen to explore that style a little more. looser, more expressive, because the portrait was so carefully done. I'm just kind of keen to like splash around, and I'm really just loving bright colors and spring. I'm feeling excited, and I'm feeling light. So I want to put some uplifting imagery out there. Just, you know, whatever you dream in your head and what's in your imagination. I'm starting to really believe and want to just put everything out there, because why wouldn't you? You can make it all real. Everything you can think of, you can make it real.
That's so beautiful.
What's next for you?
I want to loosen up a bit. So finish this piece and might even start the other piece sooner. So excited that I won that canvas.
I know.
Like, when that came through, I was like, there's my next big painting. It was kind of, I had this little encouragement, like, great. I mean, canvas isn't that expensive. I don't need to be given one. And I think we've even got another big one here. I think I'm feeling color. I'm feeling like, get your fingers in there. I don't know if it'll be a palette knife. Maybe it'll be a face. I'm not sure. But I think it'll be off script, girl.
Yeah, I know what you mean though about the canvas thing. It's not that it's that expensive, but when you have a bigger canvas, or even when you buy a canvas, I relate to that feeling where it's a little bit scary, because you're like, now I've invested, now I've bought a canvas, and it was, I don't know, $40, $50, $60. You want it to like be $60 worth and more of
Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate.
Actually, that's something I need to get over, is every time that's what's so hard to start, is because everything I make needs to be amazing. That's another big problem for me. And also, where am I going to put it? Like, it's funny to start a piece. I see this in session a lot, where people start a painting and they've already planned where it's going to go. And then you're confined by the colors in that space. And sometimes that works, but other times, I guess what's the purpose of this piece? And when there's that pressure before you even begin.
Because I think that is important to have a little bit of an idea of where you want to go. I do think it's super fun to just paint without any clue where you're going with it, because it allows for so much to come through that you just never knew that was going to come. But I think it's important to practice a little bit of visualization and using your mind's eye to imagine where you're heading with it. I use visualization a lot in life anyway, and I think if you can see something in your head, you can start to try to like get it out. But if you don't know what you're fishing for in your mind, you'll never know if it's out, you know. But then you're right, you don't want to become too confined or too restricted by what you see in your head, which is why I'll tell guests, see it in your head, but then, you know, that's what you see in your head. And then the painting is a different projection of that. It's not always going to match up exactly. So just make sure that the essence of what you can see in your head is what's coming through.
Yes, that can be challenging to get over too. Like, it's not how I wanted or not how I thought it would be. But that's also another level of magic. There's all those layers, isn't there? It's like what you visualize, what actually comes out, how other people interpret that. Actually, I was just thinking, I would love to do a session where I'd love to walk through this visualization that you're talking about, whether it's a bit like a meditation or whatever you're referencing. And if we can then paint it, what we see.
Cool.
Live, that'd be cool.
Fun. Yeah, let's do that next week. That'd be so fun.
Well, as you just heard, Hillary and I are very excited to explore visualization in the creative process. Stay tuned for that episode. And until then, thanks for listening.